Okay, welcome to my first video. I was planning on being able to actually have some other ones released before Halloween, but currently it's the last week of the month, and so I want to get this out before Halloween, or at least during the Halloween season. So I decided to put this together just to be able to get you some creepy lines and stuff, and how you can be able to practice if you're trying to get into voice acting. This is just a method that I use. You don't necessarily have to use it yourself, but I found that with being able to generate AI images, you can come up with a bunch of different characters to be able to practice different character voices. Now, some of this is frowned upon depending on the communities that you're in. Um, Point blank, though, in my opinion, AI is a tool to be used. And when I say that, there's a little bit of a nuance here. Tools can be used for all sorts of different things. For instance, if you're going to use a hammer, you want to use it on a nail. You don't necessarily want to use it on a screw unless you want to break the screw. Uh, so, and it's kind of, well, to give you another analogy, it'd be like driving a car, right? A car has certain uses. You can use it to tow things, you can use it to haul things, get things from A to B. You generally wouldn't use it to drive into a crowd of people, right? Or you wouldn't necessarily do something bad with it that would hurt others. And that's kind of the thing with AI, is that it's a tool to be used, but you don't want to use it in a way that is going to hurt other people. Now, we're seeing a lot nowadays that AI is being used to hurt a lot of people, particularly in the voice acting community. It's being used to steal people's voices, right? And it's taking their jobs. As well as artists in the art community, it's generating a whole lot of art, and people are buying AI art instead of human made art. And in that way, it's hurting a lot of people. So you don't want to use it in ways that take away from other people and their jobs, their livelihoods, essentially, right? So here's the thing, though, on this side of the coin. The reason why I'm using AI to be able to improve my skills is this. I'm not using this to take anybody else's job. I'm generating a bunch of characters to be able to come up with ways to be able to build my vocal skills and increase the amount of voices that I have and improve them, and see if I can build other skills to be able to match voices, right? And I guess I need to kind of explain that a little bit more. You got to think about it this way. If AI is coming after us, right, why don't we use AI to make ourselves more indispensable in the community, right? If it is working so hard to push us out of the community, why can't we use AI to be able to fight back against that and become better than the AI and what it's generating, right? And at least that's my point of view on it. We can fight fire with fire. We don't have to necessarily say, oh, well, every AI thing is awful, destroy it all, or, what have you. So you want to be careful when being a purist, because then it's like, well, every code needs to die. No, you want to sound like at least a sane, reasonable person, right? And say, well, no, it's the way that it's used is bad. If we can come to an agreement on that people can use it badly, then we can, I think, come to a better understanding of how to be able to fix the problem. Because if we can find moral ways of using it and distinguish that from the immoral ways, then maybe we can come a little bit closer to being able to understand how it should be used and why it should be used. Right now, it's just we're in the infancy of a technological revolution, and not everybody knows where this is going to go. There's some fear, but eventually, if it doesn't outpace us, we'll find a way to be able to work it out. But it's just going to take some time, and that's kind of where we're sitting right now. But I would caution you in being too extreme about it, because to an extent, if you do look at AI in and of itself, it's a bunch of code. and tons of things are coded. Many things use artificial intelligence. And the thing that has irritated a lot of people nowadays is that it's being put into art. And that's the really big thing is it's finding ways into our lives that we generally didn't have before, and it's actually destroying a lot of things in a lot of ways that we weren't ready for. And until policies and regulations go in to be able to regulate AI, we're really kind of floundering in a lot of those regards. But on the other hand, it does increase your ability to be able to produce workloads. It does make things a lot easier. So there's kind of like a balance. If I like to think about Star Wars, you got the Sith and then you got the Jedi, two very stark forces opposing each other, right? And then you got all the people that are caught in the middle that are just having a horrible time, And then you got Qui-Gon Jinn, who saw both sides of everything, saw the big picture, and was like, well, perhaps it's neither one side nor the other. Maybe it's a balance that we need to achieve because this problem isn't going away anytime soon. At least that's the way that I look at it. So if AI is here to stay, in my opinion, why not learn about the monster to be able to get better than the monster, right? To me, it makes no sense to be afraid of the boogeyman, not know anything about the boogeyman, and just cower in fear from the boogeyman, and and hope that the boogeyman someday dies off. If it's here, if it's present, and if it's a part of our society and it's so ingrained that it's not going to go away, we need to learn to be able to be better than the program. At least that's how I look at it. And right now, I know there's a lot of people who would disagree with me and probably say, well, AI is just better than everybody. AI is better than me. It's always going to be better than us. And I say with that attitude, absolutely. If you just want to roll over for the AI robots and let them take over, totally. I wasn't raised that way. I was raised with the mindset of if there's something that I cannot beat and I cannot get rid of it, then the next best thing is to find ways to be able to be better than it or find a way around it or find ways where it won't affect me as much or I can be better than it in some other way. And that's the whole thing with this. Sure, yeah, you can be afraid of it, but it does you no good not to know the monster and not know how to defeat it. I mean, in any fight, you gotta dip, dodge, and try to get out of the way of the blows, right? You gotta find a way around it so that you can hit it in a weak spot. And that's what you gotta do in this situation, too. If you're fighting against the beast, you gotta find a weakness and you gotta find a way to make yourself even better than it. And maybe it's not as accurate to call it a monster or a beast. Maybe it's more accurate to call it a wall. If you can't go through it, you can't go under it, you can't go over it, you're gonna have to go around it, right? And that's kind of what it's done, is it's put a wall in front of all of us that now we have to hurdle, and it's a much higher wall than we were thinking that we were going to have to hurdle. And now we're just gonna have to find a way around the wall. It sucks, but that's the reality. That's my take, right? So what I'm using this for is my own personal practice to be able to develop my own voice and voices and skill sets. And you can do that too. Just be careful that you don't use it to take anybody else's job, right? And you don't want to harm other people with it. You just want to be able to use it to help improve your business, your lifestyle, and the things that are good about you, where generally you have a hard time being able to reach or come up over that, I want to say, ledge to be able to get to a higher tier. Right? That's what we're all trying to do, is we're just trying to level up our lives. And so AI can be a great tool to use that. Just don't use it in a crappy way. That's what I'm getting at. So bear that in mind when I talk about all these next few things. Now, this isn't meant to be anything to, crush anybody else or any artists or anything like that. However, it comes out to be that this is just something for me to do for my own practice. And I kind of want to show you how I can develop or learn to develop characters or these voices for these characters, I mean. And you can do that online. You can go to casting call websites and things like that, and you can audition. But a big part of voice acting is being able to get voices under your belt and tailor them and refine them. And you got to do that in your own time. And you can't use other people's copyrighted works without their permission. Now, this comes down to basically a time-saving effort. Basically, how do I explain this? I could go and I could spend days and days and days just sending emails or putting in requests and then waiting for weeks and weeks for people to get back to me and say, oh yeah, you can practice this or you can use this. Or I can generate AI characters all within, a span of a couple of hours. And then I can try to match voices to these characters, and that allows me to be able to get the practice in faster. So it's not something that, I do, to crap on artists. I don't want to do that. That's not in my nature. I don't like doing that. And it's something that kind of ticks me off anyway, because as a voice actor, there's a lot more AI programs coming out now, and it's irritating when you hear that there's a program where, oh, this program can make you much better than any other voice actors. Why pay a voice actor when you can just have an AI machine do it for you? It pisses me off. It does. When I hear one of those ads, and I try to imagine that that's the same way that artists feel, and I can understand the irritation. So, just kind of a disclaimer, the reason I do this is though that I can get better at my work and my trade, my own private practice. And this is something that, if you're okay with doing it, you can do yourself. You can try to come up with other characters and stuff that have already been done. However, in the voice acting industry, there's this, I don't know if it's a stigma or it's more of like a rule that if you are doing impressions, there's kind of a pro and a con to that. So impressions are, let's just say, sometimes there's a little bit of rudeness or inconsideration that's done with an impression of a famous person, for example. Or if you're trying to do impressions to get into voice acting, there's a big thing to this because there's a good chance that somebody that you're doing this impression of already has that role, right? And if you go and you're trying to get into roles that are already doing that voice, and let's say you're trying to audition for these roles, you're trying to steal this voice actor's job, basically. I kind of want to interject here just to amend some of this. It's not necessarily stealing. If the audition is put out there, then it's fine. You can audition for the role or what have you, as long as it's put out by the company that does the voice or has the voice and it's not infringing on copyrights, you're generally okay. But you want to be very careful doing fan dubs or comic dubs or things like that are using actual copyrighted material. But there's a certain amount of rudeness of doing impressions and then collecting on jobs that somebody has already established. Like, how would you feel if you auditioned for a role, somebody picked you up for the role and said, hey, you were amazing at this voice, I love you at it, and then somebody else comes up and says, well, I can do it better. You got to be careful about being rude like that in the industry, which is why impressions, even though it gets a lot of people kind of into the voice acting, you don't want to do it as voice acting because there's copyright infringements and a lot of legal stuff that goes into it. So you want to come up with your own original stuff that you have created yourself. Nobody can take away from you because then it's your copyrighted material, right? Right. Unless a company owns the rights to it. But that's a talk for another day. Okay. Anyway, continuing. And this company picked them because they were the best at doing that character and their voice. And now you're doing a copy or your best impression of it. Now, granted, that can be good. Let's say, the voice actor passes away or they don't want to do the role anymore or for whatever reason they're not doing the role. Then that could open up a door for you to be able to, get that role. However, it's kind of a gray area right there where it can be seen as very rude, And how would you feel if somebody was trying to take your job, right? Because they thought they could do it better. That's kind of what it comes down to. And so when I do this stuff, it's meant not to be, an impression. I just am trying to build my own voices that I can use, my own unique, specific, specialized voice that doesn't belong to anybody else. And that's what your goal should be as a voice actor when you're trying to create voices. And that's important because you don't want to be offensive or anything like that. And you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot, especially when you're getting started or when you actually have a career, because that could lead to you not having a career. You want this thing to have some life. And to be able to do, I guess, impressions and things like that, I don't want to do copyrighted works or anything. I want to come up with my own voices, something that I can use whenever I want, So if I have to do something down here, or if I need to do something a little bit higher or faster, these are my voices and my skill set that I'm building with my own unique biology to be able to get this tailored to get jobs. And so for you guys, that's what this is for. I want you guys to be able to, if you're trying to get into voice acting or you're trying to learn it, there's different methods that you can use to be able to practice. You can pull things out of it. You can come up with different ways of being able to create your own voices, your own voice, your own sound for the genre and the job that you want. And in reality, from what I've learned, doing all the auditioning and stuff and the roles that I've got thus far, though they haven't been many, there is something that tends to ring true in the voice acting community is that when you come up with your own voice and your own sound, it's unique. And it's something that other people haven't necessarily heard before. Maybe it's a little bit of a twist on something that they've heard before, but you're adding your own unique personality and your own spin to it. And that's what makes it special. So when you go into voice acting, think about it that way. You're not trying to be other people. You are trying to be a more specialized and unique version of yourself. That's what it's about. So when I show you these characters and stuff like that, this is kind of an example of how I practice and how I come up with new voices. So if I come up with something and I'm like, wow, this image, I wonder if my voice can actually hit that. There are voices that I know that I can't do. I can't do tiny little cutesy characters. I got to be real with myself. I can try it. I can definitely practice it. That's for sure. But I know where the strengths of my wheelhouse is. And that's more in creepy characters. Or it's more in deeper ones. Or something more in this caliber. You gotta find something that works for your voice without blowing your voice out, without straining your voice. Something in a comfortable zone where you can do this for hours and hours and hours. Because your voice is your biggest tool. You need to take care of it. You need to keep it healthy. And if you haven't been doing any voice acting thus far, I can tell you right now, the best way that you can get that practice in is auditioning and trying to figure out different voices, playing with your voice to figure out which things sound really good, especially in a microphone. You want to get good equipment. You want to get a decent sound out of it, because one thing that I found is that with crappy equipment, I thought that I sounded good, and the problem is the crappy equipment changed my voice enough where I was doing voices, but it did not sound good on a microphone, not a quality one. And so I had to retrain and relearn my voice on a quality microphone to be able to actually get some good tones and good sounding things. So I would encourage you, if you're going to do practicing and stuff, try to at least get something of decent quality, not a cheapo microphone that you can just buy from anywhere, or a headset microphone or anything. It's fine, I guess, if you want to play around with it as a hobby or something, but if you actually want to hone your tone, you want to try to get something that's quality. Because, face it, if you're trying to get a quality voice, you want to use quality equipment. And I'm not saying you have to buy $2,000, equipment or anything like that. The microphone I'm using right now is a Rode NT1. It's a Rode NT1A, and I bought it used from some musician local in town that didn't want it anymore, and I bought it, I think it was for about $100. It's usually a $300 microphone, brand new, out of the box, and so it was really nice. I just used some regular equipment. I actually have my microphone on a camera tripod mounted to it because I had extra camera mounting hardware, and I just used the little bobbles and bits to be able to mount it so that way it sounds good and it doesn't bang around or anything. Because some of the microphone boom arms that you probably seen them, they have the springs and stuff, and when you accidentally bump it, it goes bong. Yeah, those will mess up your audio like crazy. I don't like them, so I had to get a quality one, and I wound up using a camera tripod instead, because it's more stable, it sounds great, and I can keep my distance to the microphone constant without the microphone boom arm swinging or doing weird things while I'm doing the motions and acting. So it just depends on what you want to do and what you want out of your voice. Go for quality. If you're going to go, feet first into the industry and you want to try to hit it as hard as you can and you want to get quality, you want to be good, then go for quality. Because I can tell you, you're not going to go wrong if you put the investment in and the effort into it, if that's something that you really want to try out and really want to do. Because at the end of the day, you're just fighting yourself, basically. You don't want to live life with regrets, right? So don't regret not taking the chance or not trying it out, because you'll never know if you like it or not until you do it. To kind of, I guess, finish this up, the goal of this video is to just show you how you can build your voices for voice acting to get a start, and it doesn't have to necessarily be my way or the highway. You can find all sorts of different ways to do it. This is just one avenue that I've found that has been helping so much in my ability to be able to build my portfolio of voices. So this is for you to be able to build a portfolio as well. The reason I use AI is because it comes up with characters that I myself never would have thought of. So it gives me a whole broader range of things to be able to do voices for. But for me, this is just characters. This is character voice acting. if you want to do an e-learning voice, or if you want to do something more as an audiobook, you're going to have to practice voices for those. So keep in mind what kind of genres you want to practice for those and what kind of market you want to be in. And get good at that. Listen to people. Listen to examples of voice actors that are actually going out there and doing it. Because you're not trying to copy them, right? Not their voice, not how necessarily they perform, but you will find like little tips and tricks in how they do things that just stand out and sound good. It's like, oh, you know what? When I do that audiobook read, I want to be able to drive some emotion into it, so that way it sounds exciting. Things like that. So, something to keep in mind when you're going and you're watching these videos and you're thinking about things like this. That's something that you want to consider when you're doing the voice acting. If you like my stuff, please keep following along, because I want to be able to bring you along for the journey. If this is your first time voice acting, or if you're thinking about getting into it, please keep on watching, because I want to be able to get you stuff that could be valuable. And even if it's something that you find out that you don't want to do, I at least want to give you the information to let you know, hey, this might not be something that you want to do, or it may not be in your wheelhouse. Because to me, there's nothing worse than wasted time and talent. So I want you to be able to put your talents and your strengths and your dreams where you want them to be. And if I can help you show you a way forward to that, then in my opinion, I'm doing what I set out to do. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for supporting me. And I know this is kind of a long audio thing, but thanks for sticking with me through it for so long, because I want you to be able to get stuff out of it. It's the whole goal of this channel. So thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I hope you stick around for the next one. Take care. Bye. Wait, hold on. Before you go, I put this at the end, and I did it because, well, this is probably going to be a part 2. I forgot in the first part of my video, this whole monologue that I did to kind of help you guys practice, I forgot to mention that I am doing a Halloween theme, right? I released this for Halloween, and so I'm going to need to make a part 2. So there is a part 2 to this video. It's going to have AI characters, butlers, and things like that. And it's basically going to be how many different variations of a butler that I can do. Can I do regular ones? Can I do more creepy ones? And remember, I made this so that you guys can practice too. That is what I was kind of going for. So I forgot to explain that. So if you want to be able to continue joining me for my journey, be sure to go over and watch the second part to this, where it's got all the voices and you can actually hear it, and you can see the AI images that I found that I wanted to do voices for. And I also did a reverse part to that. I actually just tried to do some voices, and I tried to find AI images that I could make to match the voices too, which was kind of fun. It didn't really, I don't think it really benefited me in any way, but it was just kind of fun to do. I found it much better to be able to generate the images and then try to make a voice for it, because it's stretching my vocal cords, and I think that's going to be the way to really do this and to key in on it. So please go and check that out if you want to learn how to practice or just get some stuff under your belt. And if you're just beginning out, starting out as a voice actor, then please follow along with me, because I'm just beginning my journey. I've had maybe a couple of years of classes and stuff, but I just started auditioning this year, and I've landed several roles. So if you're in the same boat, please follow along with me. I'd love to be able to have some people along for the ride. And it's nice to know that, you're not alone in the journey, right? So, yeah, please check out part 2. Take care, and I'll see you there. Thanks for watching. If you want to continue to join me on my voice acting journey, then don't forget to subscribe to me on YouTube or join my Patreon for more videos where you can hear practice reads, blooper reels, or even my experiences of getting into voice acting. Who knows? Maybe you can even join this disabled guy on his journey. Thanks again, and as always, stay safe out there.